So imagine making a box, and this box is called Successful Salesperson. With this box, you try to fit every salesperson in there, but sometimes not every person fits in that box. Does that make them not a good salesperson? I don't think that's true, and that's what I'm going to attack from this article. Is basically the article says that, and in our text it says ego drive and empathy are the main characteristics a sales professional needs to have in order to be a good sales professional. In my paper, I kind of summarize what the article, what makes a good salesman, talks about, and talk about what ego drive is, what empathy is, and how they work together and how they work apart, and then why I don't think ego drive and empathy should be the characteristics that describe a good salesperson. So basically, ego drive is the personal drive a person has when they want to, in order to succeed. So it could be for a job and plus being a personal win. When a person who has ego drive usually seeks out to close the deal, get that customer to buy the product. And when the customer does buy the product, this feeds into their drive. It makes them feel successful, feels like a personal win, and it makes them feel confident in what they're doing. And what's empathy? Empathy is not sympathy, but empathy is understanding how a person feels. But the article states how you don't have to agree with this person, but you can understand how they feel and still use this ability to close. How they work together. Basically the article says that these two work together. They can't work apart. A person can have strong ego drive but low empathy, and that person wouldn't be a successful salesperson. And I don't particularly agree with that, but they made a point to saying if a person has high ego drive, their whole objective is to close, but they don't care about what the person is feeling and what the person is trying to comprehend about the product. And the same thing goes for empathy. If someone has high empathy but low ego drive, they're going to understand the person to the full extent. If the person really isn't feeling the product, they're going to be like, you know what, you don't need to buy this, because honestly, you buying this or not buying this doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is you. So basically, they said in order for a sales professional to be great and to be good is that ego drive and empathy need to work together, and they both need to be strong, because when they're both either weak or one's strong and one's weak, they fail on both spectrums, and that it doesn't really make them a good salesperson. They still can do everything a salesperson can, but they won't be as successful. They won't be great. They'll just be good. And as our text said, there's a difference between a good and a great sales professional. So, what common mistakes managers make when hiring people? They stereotype. They expect sales professionals to have ego drive, empathy, be super confident, be super nice, and be super motivated. But that's not always the case. They base it off experience, thinking, oh, they did great at this other job, or they have so much experience, so they're going to do great here. So they fit the perfect profile they're looking for. And they do blind hiring because they're like, oh, they have experience, they're fine, and they'll be okay. And they rule out others because they're like, they don't have the characteristics that we're looking for, because we don't think these characteristics that they have will make them a great, successful salesperson. And tests can be faked consistently. So people could just fill out the test and basically get what the managers want to hear, but when it comes to the field, they actually don't fulfill what the managers are expecting. And then they don't hire based on individual traits, like I said, so they rule out people because they believe every sales professional is in a box, and that they're in this particular box, and that they all have to fit in this box that they have made that is a good sales professional, and that's not always true. And then what they should not only rely on training. Why managers should not only rely on training. They should not only rely on training because a really great sales professional who had like great experience in training, they could honestly suck. And when it comes down to it, and they don't actually fulfill what the managers are expecting, and they could be thrown for a whole curveball when the person they hired because they just needed to hire someone, but didn't fulfill the characteristics, succeed in training and actually become a great sales professional. So they can't just hire based on experience, based on what they believe. They need to hire the person on if they fit the characteristics, like if they're able to do the job, not because they have to be like this sales professional they have in mind. But basically this relates to the business environment now, because we can't just judge the book by its cover, because a lot of people motivate themselves differently, but will still be able to get the job done. Like just because a person is an introvert or an extrovert doesn't mean they can't do the same job. So that's it, and that's what I have for you guys today. So basically, I don't think that ego drive and empathy are the only characteristics to define a great sales professional. I think they should be able to work independently. I don't think we should solely depend on these characteristics, because every person is different, but if they have the ability to do it, I think you should hire them. So that's it.